Right now on Inside Texoma, we are taking an inside look at the wrap-up of the 30th anniversary of the Hotter Than Hell 100. It was quite a day, breaking records all over the place, including the temperatures.
That's right.
Randy, you're going to just share a little bit about what we can expect this coming Sunday.
Today's our, just want to be a thank you to everybody and kind of going over what happened that weekend. It was a great weekend, 3 or 4 days. Obviously we beat it. We beat the heat record. We had a pretty good attendance, good medical staff that came out and helped, and also a record number of flat tires. That's something we never really talk about, but this year it's very prudent to do that. And then also the consumer show. They did a really good job this year. They doubled their revenue, and our Science of Cycling Symposium went very well this year. We had a lot of attendees. And then talking about all the vendors specifically, and then how Hotter Than Hell impacts the community here at Wichita Falls, specifically this year. And then also giving that big thank you to all the volunteers and riders and Channel 6.
Well, we appreciate you taking time. We look forward to the show. It's something you definitely don't want to miss. It's a full wrap-up of the 30th anniversary of Hotter Than Hell 100. It all starts right now on Inside Texoma. Good morning, Texoma. I'm Ashley Fitzwater. Thanks for joining us for Inside Texoma. This morning, we are taking an inside look at the wrap-up of the 30th anniversary of the Hotter Than Hell 100. And joining me now to talk about just that is Randy Canavell. Randy, we appreciate you being here for the third time.
Thank you very much.
Now we are wrapping it all up.
That's
and
correct.
What a day it really turned out to be. You know, we were live out there with our coverage, bringing you the first HD coverage of Hotter Than Hell 100, and it was just quite an experience being there at the starting line and everything. So let's talk about the numbers. Let's talk about the outcome and the success of that race, though.
We had a good turnout. We actually broke the heat record, which was no surprise to anybody. But we beat the original record, which was 106 back in, I believe it was 1982. And so we beat that record. I think it was 109 is what the weather reported that day. So it was really hot. So we beat that record. And then obviously this year we had a little bit lower turnout because of the heat. Our early registration was phenomenal, but when it came to getting the last minute registrants, we didn't get all those. And it's partly due to the heat, I'm sure. It was just hot. So.
It was hot, but you know, that number wasn't a bad number. You know, it was low. Last year, I think you had said the highest number was around the 14,000
It was 14,800 last year total. This year we were 13,600.
Which is still good.
That's
I know
really
it is
good.
lower, but it is still good. So that still helps the economy, right? Bringing in those dollars.
Sure. I mean, we had just 13,600 people that day. That's a lot of revenue that's stimulated here in Wichita Falls. And you figure annually, I think the Bureau of Commerce and Industry did a study here, and they figured about 4.5 to 5 million is contributed to the Wichita Falls economy that weekend of Hotter Than Hell. So that's still a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Can't complain. So we're good.
It was definitely still a success.
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to
definitely.
downplay that at all.
No.
Something else that was done a little bit differently this year was, of course, the start time, the early start time. And we were, out there for that, even though the cannon blast and the flyover was still at 7:04.
Right. You're watching News Channel 6 coverage of the 30th anniversary of the Hotter Than Hell 100.
Good morning, Texoma. Thanks for waking up with us for the first ever live HD coverage of Hotter Than Hell 100. Let me tell you, it's early, but the adrenaline out here is pumping. It's so exciting to be right here waiting for the riders to come through. Now, the racers they've already come through. We got to see them. They're on the road. They started about 6:05, 6:15. The racers got to start a little bit earlier. How successful is that? What was the response that you heard from that?
We had our meeting last night, kind of our wrap-up meeting for the year, and it was very successful on both ends, both the ride and also the race portion. The racers obviously went a different route so that they wouldn't collide with the riders.
Sure.
That was very successful. We had a lot of compliments given by the riders saying that they loved the early start. I don't think that's something we can do every year because it was still quite dark, but we had to do something for the heat, and they loved it, and that really gave a lot of people the chance to get to Hell's Gate early and on time. So it's very successful.
Now, so is that kind of the main reason? Because I was going to ask that. Why not just do that every year? It's because it was dark out there too. So
well, that's partly the reason, because when you start that early, you get into a lot of safety issues, and there was a few things that morning of, but it was just really for the heat. We had to do something, you know, just to be good stewards and good people putting on this ride. We had to start early, but if it's this hot again next year, sure, we'll look at it again.
Probably have to start again earlier as well.
That's right.
But you know, kind of just talking about the accidents and stuff, you talked a little bit about that because of course safety was the number one. How were those overall? I mean, were there less this year because of the heat? Did it cause more distress on people?
We had several cases of hyponatremia, which is basically water intoxication. We had a few heat illnesses, and then the rest were just, you know, simple traumas, just people running into each other. And that's, you know, partly because we did start earlier. You know, it's hard to see one another, but really out of 13,600 riders, only 0.07% were considered major traumas that required medical attention. The rest of them were just little bumps and bruises and little cuts, nothing that a Band-Aid couldn't fix. So.
But there were no deaths. I mean,
no
correct.
Deaths,
I mean,
zero.
which is great
That's
news. I mean, you know, everyone was able to, in a sense, walk away.
And we have to give kudos to Dr. Keith Williamson, his medical staff, and United Regional. Gosh, they do a good job taking care of these riders. The racers had a few incidents, but you know, obviously they're going faster and harder.
Sure.
But they were taken care of, and nothing serious happened.
That's good.
So, praise to Dr. Keith Williamson and his staff for that.
Absolutely, and you know, kind of going back on that, and I know we touched on this, you know, a few times back when we were talking about preparing for Hotter Than Hell, but in all, do you know how many doctors or medical staff was out there? And I know, kind of putting you on the spot with the number here, but you said pretty much numerous rest stops, you had doctors.
We had doctors, a number of regular physicians, and then also residents, which residents are doctors who are trying to build up their career. We had probably about, I believe, 8 to 12, so we met every rest stop.
Wow.
Every rest stop had a physician. But then you also have to count nurses also and anesthesiologists, so we had a great medical staff, a mixture of medical personnel there helping out.
So did the dark, because you kind of mentioned that it was hard to see, so that was to blame for at least
There
one
were some. I know as a rider I was out at 6:15 already, and probably about 6:30 I had seen a couple people collide. Nothing serious, just kind of got the wind knocked out of them, but they were fine.
Maybe it wouldn't have happened though if it would have been.
Yeah, that's why we tried to have everybody get lights and stuff, you know, some type of identification on your bike. But really, one accident out of, you know, that early in the morning out of, you know, how many thousand started, I mean, it's not bad at all.
And who knows if that would have happened, I guess, in the day. And that was pretty neat to see, I have to say, you know, all the lights on the helmets.
Blinking.
They had the lights on the...
like a big Christmas tree.
It was pretty cool.
So it was cool, but it all turned out really well, and like I said, we'll look at next year and see if it's this hot again, then obviously we'll have to start early.
Well, we're keeping our fingers crossed it's not, you know.
Next year will probably be 80 degrees. Yeah, it'll be cold
We'll
next
take
year.
that. Something else I thought was pretty interesting was the flat tires. You said it was a record number of flat tires changed.
Based on some of the bike mechanics that volunteered their time, and also the local bike mechanics, they said they went through probably 2 or 3 cases of bicycle tubes, which is what is replaced. And then I know one stop said that he had changed 400 flats.
Oh my goodness.
You know, just that morning. And that's a lot of flats. I mean, and then so you count 400 plus what the bike shops did here locally. We're probably talking 600, 700 flats they changed that morning. And some of them had nothing to do with objects stuck in the tire. It was just, it was so hot, people were pumping up their tires to the max. And so with the heat, we know that it just makes everything burst. So.
Is there anything you can do to prevent that?
You can leave a little. You can leave a little bit of give in your tires. Maybe not pump them up to the max where they're rock hard, but give a little bit of room, because you know air's going to expand with hot air. So giving a little bit of room definitely helps, and that's what I did personally as a cyclist. I knew that was going to happen, so I had no problems, luckily.
Yeah, and that seems dangerous too. If all of a sudden you're riding along. Right. Something else that was pretty neat. We saw a lot of the unicycles and even the reclining bikes, and I know we interviewed someone
recumbent.
about yes, recumbent. We learned that this weekend. So what are those, something that's new? They seem to be more and more entering, or is that traditional?
I've been a rider for 6 years now, and I think I see more of those every year. The tandems have always been there, but the recumbent bikes are starting to, you know, make an appearance. You're seeing a group of those. One thing I saw this year that was really cool was an arm crank bike. Somebody was biking using his arms. Oh. And that was the only one I saw at Hotter Than Hell. So I think we're seeing a lot of trends in cycling, different ways to cycle. But
it's definitely pretty neat, something to watch.
There's no restriction to that at Hotter Than Hell. If you want to do that, that's fine. So.
Well, we have a lot more to talk about the success of the 30th anniversary of the Hotter Than Hell 100. We need to take a quick break, but we'll be right back with more. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. We are taking a look at the success of the 30th anniversary of the Hotter Than Hell 100. Randy, you're really filling us in on all the details and the outcome of, you know, such a great year. Talking a little bit about the consumer show, that was another big success this year.
Big success this year. Despite having a little bit lower number, the vendor show made quite a bit of money. They doubled their revenue this year. So I guess we had a lot of good vendors that came out, both cycling and non-cycling, and so there was a lot of opportunities for cyclists to get next year's stuff and to stock up. Some of the cycling vendors that came this year, we always have Plano Cycling and Fitness. They always come out. Richardson Bike Mart, our very own Texoma Cycling Center, and then also Sunski and Sports. And there were many more vendors than that, but those were some of the main ones, and they definitely saw an increase in their revenue.
Why do you think that was? I mean, you know, when we talked a little about the numbers being down, you might have thought they might not have done as well, or?
I think it's kind of, you know, with the economy being a little, you know, on the downturn right now, I think the vendors are willing to, you know, negotiate better prices, and they know that they may not sell on price, but they'll sell on quantity, so they can make up their overhead.
For the difference.
Oh, absolutely, and they bring a lean staff with them. They don't bring their whole staff, maybe 2 or 3 guys run it the whole weekend, and then if you wait till Saturday to buy stuff, you know, they mark everything down because they don't want to have to haul it all back.
Sure.
So you can really get a lot of good deals. So I think that's the reason why they doubled their revenue this year.
Well, that's great news for them, and encourages vendors to come back next year, maybe even more, add to the list.
We had quite a few non-cycling related vendors this year. The United Way came out and they volunteered, which is great. Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, they've sponsored us in the past, but they're always there just to, you know, just to welcome everybody and say hello, kind of make their presence. All their reps come, and then also Sensi, which I own about 50 of those.
Yes.
They came out and they had a booth and they were selling their Sensi stuff for a cheaper price than what you would get it normally. So it was great to have non-cycling vendors there, and I think we're going to see more of those come as the popularity of Hotter Than Hell increases every year.
And that's good, you know, because like you said, not everyone's riding. Maybe I'm not really a cyclist, you know, or I even have a bike or anything. So, but you know, you go out there and then you can shop a little bit too.
So there's a lot of stuff like we had talked before for non-cyclists.
Sure.
There's stuff to do. So I think that's why we're letting non-cycling vendors come in and set up their tables and booths for us.
Is that something that's fairly new? Was that not the case in the past, so to speak?
In the past, the cycling vendor show was strictly just for cycling vendors, but I think because this is a Wichita Falls event, not just a cycling event, we're allowing those non-cycling vendors to come in. It's a good way to network too. If your business is, you know, you can kind of meet another business that might be related to what you're doing, and so it helps everybody out.
And double the revenue. That's quite impressive this year. That's something to brag about.
And MPEC is a great place to hold that, so we have to give the people at MPEC a big thank you for helping us coordinate all that good stuff that morning.
One of the other things we had talked about was the Science of Cycling Symposium, something you took part in, and you know, we just heard wonderful things about. How was the success of that?
It was even better this year than it was the year before. Our second year to do it, we had anywhere between 50 and 100 participants at any given time, and it would vary between each topic, but we had a really good turnout. And we have had requests from visiting professors and people that came to the symposium wanting to take part in it themselves next year, and possibly expanding this symposium to maybe an all-day event, maybe going from 8 a.m. to 5. We had a very good response and feedback from it, so a lot of people enjoyed it.
Wow, that's awesome. Just to kind of give folks at home an idea, in case, you know, they've missed any of our coverage on this, what the symposium really was, so they can make sure to take part in it next year. Can you kind of give us just a brief rundown of that?
Symposium goes from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and it's myself and 2 other people from MSU who are professors gave presentations. Dr. Keith Williamson, our medical director, he talked about hyponatremia and hydration. And then we have several visiting professors that do research at Hotter Than Hell, and they spoke and had their students take part in it. So it's a chance for cyclists and even non-cyclists to learn about the science and the sport of cycling and how to make yourself a better athlete in that sport.
Because this is all taking place before the big race. So
right, it's that Friday afternoon before even the crits start. So it's a last minute chance if you're a racer to catch up on some technique. But it was really great. Seeing that many people show up was really refreshing, and we're going to do it again next year.
Is this something that you're going to definitely take part in next year?
Absolutely. I'm responsible for all the marketing part of it, but Dr. Frank Wyatt, who's our exercise physiologist and professor at MSU, he heads that up.
So it's definitely something you're looking forward to taking part in for the
years to come. And Roby and Chip, who are the executive directors for the ride, they really have enjoyed us, having this event, because it's something educational.
Sure.
It's not just going out and riding and then spending time at the consumer show. It's something educational.
And we've heard just wonderful things about it, even from others in the community who have come in here before. So that's definitely something to mark down on your calendar for next year already. Of course, we'll be reminding you about that as the date gets closer, so don't worry about forgetting about it, but just something to keep in the back of your mind to take part in. So thanks for sharing more about that. We need to take another quick break, but we'll be right back with more.